Hello, everybody. This is episode 43 of All About the Birds. Johnny Uleka, Jeff Warner, and Phil Steifel here to break down the Week 3 matchup between the Eagles and the Bengals. Got a lot to talk about, a lot of injuries, the press conferences today, key matchups. But the first thing, again, I said same thing last week, is Doug Peterson is so snippy. I know he made a comment. I don't know what it was Jimmy Kemsky. One of the reporters said something about Carson Wentz, I guess, not hitting the easy throws, and he just came with another rude, snarky comment. So I know he's pissed off. The fan base is pissed off from what they're seeing, and I don't know. I just don't see Peterson getting any happier unless they start winning games. And this matchup is, against a team that's not that good. But again, if they don't show up like the defense didn't show up, and Carson Wentz making mistakes, they may end up 0-3. But we're gonna talk about a lot of things and break down, everything in this Week 3 matchup. But the big injury news is Jalen Reagor, and it's just where does it go from here?
I'll say there's a lot to go from like you said, the injury to Reagor is huge. I would say right now without Reagor, they're down to 4 active wide receivers, which granted, I'm sure they'll activate someone from the practice squad for this week's game. But I'll say it's going to be interesting to see the offensive game plan from Doug Peterson this coming week with only 4 wide receivers. And this past week, the Rams took the passing game, their strength, the deep passing game, away from them. Deshaun Jackson was a non-factor in the first half. Reagor, I would say, had a couple catches here and there, but I would say it's going to be, now that it's out there, the game plan, how to stop this Eagles offensive attack, teams are going to try to find a way to take it out, and now you use another deep threat for our offense for possibly, they don't know how long. They're saying multiple weeks. Some are saying 5 weeks. Some are saying 7 weeks. Some feel that it might only be a couple weeks. So they're really going to need Alshon Jeffrey to really get back here quickly. They're going to need the likes of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, unfortunately, and John Hightower to really step up their game. And honestly, you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. I know they've been using a lot the last couple of weeks with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, even more so that they're going to be having a lot of that out there for their offense.
And the other big thing is the other big thing is Seumalo. Seumalo is going to be out, and Doug says more than 3 weeks. So,
Matt Pryor played pretty well this past week. Surprisingly, him and Herbig with Lane Johnson back, they controlled Aaron Donald for the most part. So the offensive line definitely stepped up their game this past week from allowing 8 sacks a week before against Washington. So really the big concern is Carson Wentz, your quarterback, and your head coach thinking he's an offensive genius and not willing to have in-game adjustments. Me and Phil discussed on the post-game show, and Dougie P just feels that his stuff is working, and you kind of think from, and I think he's been asked about it in his press conferences last week and this week, why is Carson Wentz digressing? Why aren't you using your game plan to his strengths? And he just looks dumbfounded whenever he has to answer these questions. Like, they're right. Good question. If he knows it's a good question, why the hell isn't he freaking doing it? Why aren't you game planning to your quarterback's strength? Because obviously your quarterback isn't playing well. He's shown that he can't he can't throw accurate passes in the pocket. He has shown that he can't hang on to the football correctly and not make bad decisions. He's holding on to the ball too long. That interception in the end zone. JJ was open. Everyone wanted to think that JJ it was a bad play. At first, I would say, and after the result, I would say you're wondering why isn't Carson Wentz, or what kind of throw was he making? Because I would say you threw in the double coverage. JJ was open. Your quarterback just held onto the ball.
There's a snapshot out there of that play, and if you look at it from a distant view, like Carson would have been looking at it from, there was 3 other options on that play that were better choices. And everybody knows I love Carson. I try not to trash talk him or badmouth him and all, but. Yeah. He's making it really hard to, use that hashtag Wentz as a lead all the time. And yeah, I know, laugh because, I'm getting bashed for it nonstop now. But, it's all, like you said, Jeff, it's all the game plan. The game plan isn't right for him. And that's where the problems are coming right now. I mean, yes, Wentz isn't playing well. Some of the wide receivers are struggling. Miles had the big fumble to start the game. The offensive line has, continuity issues there. But the real issue is the game plan on offense and on defense. We could talk about it at some point. It's actually just as much Jim Schwartz's game plan that's a problem right now as is Doug Peterson. But Doug Peterson is not setting up Carson for success. He is not setting up Miles Sanders for success. He's not setting up anybody for success right now. And that's a big, big issue. How long does the leash for winning a Super Bowl go? Because it's not like this is new. We've been having issues with the game plan for several years now.
Yeah, and I'll say I know you mentioned Jim Schwartz, and don't get me wrong, the defense, they were horrendous this past week. Three straight drives to open the game to allow the Rams to go down the field and get up to an early 21-3 lead at one point. So I would say the defense played horrible, but we expected the defense to go through some growing pains this season. We didn't expect the defense to live the play too terribly well. We kind of expected that the only way the Eagles were going to win football games is by in shootouts. So that's why I'm a little bit more concerned with the defense or with the offense and Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson's game plan, because right now they're not scoring points. I'll say they scored 17 week 1 and 19 week 2. That's not going to get the job done in the NFL. And these were I'll say the Washington team, you kind of expected them to blow them out. The Rams are a borderline playoff team to most people. So I would say you kind of expected them to do a little bit better, but not 19 points. And to get blown out in the fashion they did, if Cooper Kupp doesn't fumble that opening or that punt return, we could be talking about even more of a blowout this game. I'll say defensively, their big weaknesses right now, they're not getting to the quarterback. They're allowing way too much time in the pocket for the for opposing quarterbacks. And a lot of that is Jim Schwartz's his game plan on not bringing extra blitzers and just relying on his front four, which the front four, they're not getting the job done. Fletcher Cox has no quarterback hits and no sacks in the first 2 games. The only sack our team has is from Brandon Graham late in the game this past week. They need a better job from the pass rush, and I feel the defense will do a little bit better.
I know Johnny's talked about Fletcher Cox, I believe it was, a few times, and how at the money he's making, he's got to do much more. He definitely isn't, just as much as Carson doesn't look like the same player. Fletcher definitely, I think the drop off there is almost more concerning and also bigger of a drop in play. And nobody across the league or the city is even discussing that aspect right now. That we'll sit here and bash the quarterback, all the time whenever there's a bad game. But what about other high priced players on the team right now that aren't living up to their contracts and what we expect out of them? That defense. I mean, when was the last time we gave up? How many yards did we give up rushing last game? It was a lot. It was
like 190. Yes.
Yeah. I can't tell you the last time an Eagles defense gave up that many yards rushing. It's not often that they do that, because that is their one thing that they've always done well. And we have what is supposed to be one of the best front fours in the league right now, and they just didn't do it. And again, just as much as we're going to blame Wentz, just as much as we're going to blame Doug Peterson, we definitely have to blame Schwartz for that as well.
But the other thing is, even yes, with the run game, it's in effect with the defensive line has to get pressure, but when they stack everything up, the linebackers have to be able to take the holes that are available to try to come down. And Nate Gary gets always sucked in, and Duke Riley did not play that well. So that right there, that they're not playing TJ Edwards as much. I understand he's not great against the pass, but what has Nate Gary showed you, especially last game? A lot of the missed assignments that he had, and to me, I'm not gonna make it on the linebackers, but again, they don't.
Is horrendous.
Yeah, and
there's no doubt about it.
And the other thing is, I know he's not a star player, but I feel like in a game like that against a team like the Rams were, a player like Will Parks would have helped a lot more than a player like Marcus Epps being out there. So, unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game, and you have to have that depth, which we've talked about. But
I mean, like I said in the pregame show for the Rams game, it's all about communication stopping the Rams. They do a lot of eye wash, a lot of eye candy, nothing really complex to that offense other than a lot of dipsy-do before the play. And the team was not prepared by the coach. So the Bengals, we're going into the Bengals this week. The Bengals have AJ Green. They have wide, Ross. They have Joe Mixon, a great running back. He hasn't had a great start to the season. He's got a young, hungry quarterback in Joe Burrows. So this team is not, if they're prepared for the Bengals the way they were prepared for the Rams, we're going to have another problem this Sunday.
Especially since Joe Burrow, I'll say, for a rookie, just even though the Bengals are 0-2, he's had a strong start to the season.
He's played really well to start for a rookie. You don't see rookies put up those kind of numbers very often.
If it wasn't for their offensive line, I'll say who knows where they could be. They could be 1-1 or 2-0 at this point. I'll say their offensive line is what's really holding them back. And I think the first 2 games they lost by a combined, I think like 8 points or something like that. So they lost on a field goal to Chargers, and then they lost by 5 to the Browns this past week. So I'll say they have shown with Joe Burrow that they have improved, and this ain't the Bengals team that I would say that was the laughing stock last season. And I think a couple years ago, Carson Wentz had one of the worst games against the Bengals, and we thought we were going to blow them out. When it was Andy Dalton and AJ Green and all of them. So I would say you can't take these opponents lightly. You have to play the game. You can win on teams can win on paper, but
he's laughing.
I think there's a party in there. I was saying
Sorry guys. There's a party going on here. I can't help that. Everybody wants to get in on the show here.
Dedication.
The thing is, Jeff, with and my buddy Dan posting this up, Dan. The thing with the Bengals and the way you can control the game is running the ball. And I know, Jeff, you've mentioned that you were on another podcast the other day, and it just came out, Birds Banner. You were talking about that, running with Miles Sanders, using the run game, because last week Cincinnati gave up 215 yards on the ground. Yeah. I think they're 29th in
Their defense isn't that great, and another reason to say they need to get Miles Sanders more involved. I understand last week they wanted to limit his carries just because he's coming off that hamstring injury. I
did invite all of you to come on this trip, just so you know. Your husbands may not have told you that, but I did invite all 4 of you guys to come down.
Anna, but this was during my daughter's first birthday, so unfortunately we cannot attend. But yeah, I would say not just only to get Miles Sanders involved, but take a lot of the pressure off of Carson. I'll say Carson just looks like he's lost his confidence out there. He's making erratic throws. He's making bad decisions. His footwork is horrible. It's just simple mechanics that, again, who's to blame? Is it Carson Wentz or is the coaching staff for not? I'll say we're in year 5 now. You should not be seeing these mistakes from your franchise quarterback in the 5th year. And if he's not changing now, if he hasn't changed before, he's not going to change now. He's already 5th year. It's already instilled in his head how to play the position and how he's going to do this stuff. I'll say coaching only can go so far. It's about executing what these coaches are telling you. And Carson, I just feel, is too stubborn to really do it, because he was saying each week, it's my bad. I need to do better. It's on me. But
is it Carson's fault, or is it Doug's fault? Because we don't have audio from the press conferences today. We're not well prepared today. But when Doug was asked about Carson and his erratic throws, he had such a snarky answer. Is it really just as much Doug to blame in that situation? Because Doug is not coaching these guys to be better. He's talking, Scott's sitting here in the room. He's piping in here.
He also hasn't been the same since he got married.
Yeah. Well, I saw that post. That was an awful post. We should not support that post. That was a terrible post.
That was bad.
Yeah, but the snarkiness and the frustration that's in Doug's voice right now, it says something. And the way he's acting, that dominoes into the rest of the locker room. That dominoes to the rest of the coaching staff, the rest of the players. If the players see their coach, their leader, frustrated, grumpy, and miserable, it's going to unmotivate them to be prepared. I know you shouldn't be having an issue getting motivated when you're in the NFL, but, you take on the identity of your coach in the NFL. And this team is taking on his identity, which is not a very positive identity right now.
But the other thing,
I really feel they don't have an identity.
They don't, and it's because Doug hasn't let them have that identity.
Exactly.
The thing is with Carson, I know towards the end of the training camp, I know he had a lower body injury. I don't know if it was a groin or something like that, but I don't know how bad it was. I don't know how much he rushed to come back, because if you look at his mechanics, you look at him opening his hips too quickly, you look at him not fully stepping into the throws, and you look at the one interception, it looked like it was all arm and not enough lower body. So if he's not using his lower body enough and he's trying to overcompensate, you're going to have a lot of these overthrows. You're going to have a lot of these balls that aren't coming out right. You're going to have not as much touch on the ball, not as much oomph on the ball. And you're going to have those problems.
I'll say these are the same mistakes that we have from Carson Wentz. I'll say he's been playing bad quarterback besides the last 4 games of last season. Last year he got off to a slow start. He's off to another slow start. It might help. It might be affecting a little bit, but this is all mechanics. This is all bad decision making on Carson Wentz. And
Jeff,
hold on, he has not been a bad decision maker for his career. I mean, he's one of the lowest, interception rates for a quarterback 4 or 5 years in, except for this year. No, what's that? Fumbling has been an issue, but that goes back to the line, the protection. It goes down to the play calling from the coach. That's him getting him on rollouts and stuff like that.
That's him hanging on to the ball, and also I would say trying to extend plays when he shouldn't. Some of it is the offensive line. I'm not going to deny that, especially the first couple games or the first game of this year. But Carson is a type of guy that I would say he has shown. I agree with you. Last year he only had 7 interceptions, but he already has 4 this year. I would say he's a fumbling machine, and I would say he's never really a guy that throws the ball away. He's always a guy that either tries to force a pass or he gets sacked. I'm not saying bad decision making as far as turnovers. I'm just saying bad decision making as a whole, because he always has to try to make a play every single play. Which
he also always has to make a play because he's stuck with subpar wide receivers. We talked about it I talked about it last year before we had the show. We've talked about the lack of depth at the wide receiver position. You have to force things when you got guys, and it's making my day to be able to say this, like Greg Ward, who can't get open, and when you do get him the ball, can't do anything with the ball. You got guys like Arcega-Whiteside, who I tried to hype up and say he was going to have a comeback this year, but it was just like blind. Yeah, it's blind hope there. That's a wash right there. You got D-Jax, who's getting older, who is still a pretty good threat that you can't get to the ball all the time. When you're not setting up the run game and other things in your offense. So who is he throwing the ball to? Hopefully Alshon Jeffries comes back healthy, because outside of that, we really have no options for wide receiver. And that's where the forcing of the ball goes, and the holding on to it too long, and the struggles that he's having. He doesn't – somebody, I forget who it was talking about breaking down all the top quarterbacks in the league. All the top quarterbacks except for Lamar Jackson, who's more of a gadget guy. They all have a number 1 wide receiver. What was that?
My buddy Russell chimed in. He said he thinks the Cowboys are going all the way after their miracle run.
Yeah, well,
miracle win this past week.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know. Yeah, no. But all the top guys. You look at Aaron Rodgers, top wide receiver. Matt Ryan, top wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes, top wide receiver. They all have top wide receivers, and the fact that the Eagles don't is an issue for Carson Wentz. Majorly.
Well, you're hoping you got that with Jalen Reagor drafting him in the first round, and you hope that from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside drafting him in the second round a year ago. And again, it comes down to Howie Roseman and the way he's assembling this roster and the bad decisions. I'll say, granted, Reagor getting hurt, I'll say he's not on Howie. I'll say you can't. Injuries happen. It's part of the game. It's just this. I just feel this team is freaking cursed. The injuries Reagor had for him and whatever he tore in his thumb, miraculously out of nowhere, and now he's going to be out possibly 2 to 7 weeks, depending on the report. So I don't know, just the amount of
no offense, and it sucks that Jalen Reagor got hurt. But what are we really losing? What has he really done in this game plan so far? He had the one big catch week 1. Well, he really hasn't been a factor in the game plan at all. Again, that's what I've been saying the whole time. It comes down to Doug and his game plans. So the fact that you got this guy and they're not using him, does losing him really hurt? Because what are they doing?
Well, they're down to 4 wide receivers now, so it's somewhat hurting.
Yeah. We can talk about that after Johnny gets his thought process out here on who they're going to have to bring up.
Well, the thing is, with Jalen Reagor being out, it brings up Phil's favorite player, Greg Ward, to step in and make big plays for him. But no, I can see Deontay Burnett being called up. But the thing is, I just want to touch on the point that Jeff said. If you have a lower body injury, your mechanics will suffer because you're going to overcompensate. And that's what he's possibly – I'm not saying that's what he's doing, but it could be a little bit of a factor on why the way he is. Your mechanics, when you get hurt, if he does a lower body injury or something with a groin or a hamstring or something like that, where you then go back into –
I'm tired of the excuses we keep on giving Carson Wentz. I'll say I'm just saying it's a possibility, but we're all McNabb fans here, and McNabb got criticized for always never winning the big game, never performing in a big moment, doing none of that. And I would say now we have Carson Wentz, who has played mediocre for the last season and a quarter so far, to be your franchise quarterback. I understand this team isn't assembled properly, but he has to be held accountable for his play and for his mistakes, rightfully so, along with Doug. I just feel like we keep on making all these excuses for Carson when he should be held accountable for his mediocre play, and we expect better from our franchise quarterback.
No, he's supposed
definitely
to.
making it hard to continue to make excuses.
No, he's held accountable. Doug's held accountable, and so is Howie Roseman for building the team. All three are held accountable. It shouldn't be just one, because Howie's supposed to be drafting the players to be putting on the field to be able to take that next step, because the problem is you have all these core players who are all older. And the problem with that is you have to rely on free agents, you have to rely on trades and do this kind of stuff that does not always pan out. Yes, 2017, he was able to do that and be able to hit on basically everybody. But what has he done in 2018, 2019, and 2020? It's been struggling. He's not hitting on those players. And that's the problem. When you don't draft well, Andre Dillard, Arcega-Whiteside, Sharif Miller, Clayton Thorson, all you have is Miles Sanders from that draft that's showing anything. The 2017 draft is a disaster.
It's sad. I retweeted a tweet today that I saw on Twitter that only 2 of the Eagles players from their draft from the last 16 players from the last 2 seasons are playing this Sunday, and that's JJ.
Again, if you want to blame Howie Roseman, I just looked it up. We are this close to be able to get CeeDee Lamb in the draft. He just had to pull the trigger on a trade. What's CeeDee Lamb done compared to Jalen Reagor?
Yeah, the big
CeeDee Lamb has 11 catches for 165 yards in 2 games.
Yeah,
compared to Jalen Reagor, which has. Do we even need to say the stats? You know what I mean? It's it really says something. Yeah, it's not good.
No, and that's the thing. And the problem is with Cincinnati. Cincinnati's coming in with. I know you talk about AJ Green and you bring up John Ross, but it isn't them. It's Auden Tate. But the other guy, Tyler Boyd, who's going to be matched up with Nickel Roby-Coleman, who Coleman's been struggling. And that's a big factor, because where's Cravon LeBlanc? Why can't he get on the field and show something? That's the other thing, is they don't hold accountable. Avonte Maddox has not been playing well. He's had a horrible game.
Well, you're bringing that up. I don't have the stats in front of me. I didn't do the research on it, but I saw a tweet saying that the 3 cornerbacks we lost in the offseason, Darby, they're all playing well elsewhere. And all the guys we have in here now are in the top. They're 50 to 100 in ratings. Yet the guys we lost, Ronald Darby's 13th rated cornerback right now. It's pretty pathetic. So where does that go with the game plan, the development of these guys, the coaching staff, and all that stuff?
But the other thing is, they showed that Rasul Douglas is allowing 54 completion percentage, 54% completion on his throws towards him. Avonte Maddox, 71%. So, it sucks, because you think, oh, okay, they could do. But the other issue with Schwartz is he doesn't change it up. He just says, this is my game plan, and I'm going to go with it. And for Rodney McLeod to say, oh, we were ready, we knew exactly what was happening, well, then that's a huge problem, because it didn't look like you knew exactly what you were doing at all out there.
Especially since the Rams, it's not a very complex offense to try to scope out.
No, it's not.
It's all play action. It's all zone running. I'll say they're not very difficult to game plan for. And you allowed Sean McVay and Joe and Goff look like superstars out there. I know Phil disagrees with me, but Doug Peterson got outcoached on Sunday. And I would say when
did I disagree with that? I agree with that. He got outcoached big time.
Oh, I would say I remember in our post game show you said that you didn't feel that Doug Peterson outcoached the Sean McVay. So you said that he didn't have a good game plan, or he didn't coach well. But I thought you said that you felt Sean McVay didn't really outcoach him. But I would say Goff was 13 of 13.
Maybe I did. I don't remember. But yeah, no, he got outcoached.
But I would say, and that's the one thing I would say. I don't know if Doug's just getting frustrated with Carson. He's getting frustrated with the team, but this team should not be 0-2 right now. And this is even, I know last week we said it was a must win. This is even more of a must win because if we go 0-3, you're not coming back from that. I would say with this schedule coming up, it's going to be a mess. And possibly if they're at 1-5, 1-6 before the trade deadline, you can honestly see them being sellers at the trade deadline for a playoff contending team that needs some pieces. And some of these names you're going to see possibly on the trade block. We already know about Ertz. You possibly can see Fletcher Cox if he doesn't pick up his game. Try to get this cap number lowered for next year. So
if they don't play well, how are you going to trade those guys? No, Fletcher Cox, that contract really doesn't have as much value as you think at this point because he's playing so bad. At least Ertz still plays at a fairly high level for the most part. Fletcher Cox hasn't shown anything.
Besides his touchdown, he was eliminated in the Washington game, and then last week I think he has a couple catches here and there. He wasn't.
That's more the game, man. Yeah, that's not him playing badly. That's him not getting the ball thrown his way. That's Fletcher Cox. His job is to rush up that middle and stop the run or the pass. It's a little different there.
I understand the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, they're I'll say it's a little bit differently, but Ertz ain't going open. He's on the field He was on the field 94. It was 94% of the snaps last week. He should at least got the ball thrown a little bit more to him or found a way open. Whether that's Ertz mentally with the whole contract situation being a distraction or what, but you expect a lot more from your possibly all-pro tight end with Zach Ertz, who's been a big performer here the last couple seasons. So I don't know. I understand the contracts are a big issue when it comes to trade time, but they might just say screw it and get some type of compensation because they need, like we keep on saying, they need to build this team through the draft. They need to figure out and get some young talent in here to fill these holes because these guys are aging and they're declining very quickly, as Fletcher Cox has shown. He's about to be 30 in December, and he has made no impact in the first 2 games.
But the thing is, yeah, they have to build through the draft, but how confident are you they can even do that? Look at the last 5-6 drafts, and what do you really have out of those drafts that are something to be like, okay, well, you have Carson and Miles Sanders and maybe, Dallas Goedert and Avonte Maddox, but there's a lot of misses there, a lot of terrible misses. And the big thing that, watching the game on Sunday and watching a player on the Rams is Van Jefferson, who was drafted, I think, 5 or 6 spots after the Eagles picked Jalen Hurts. So, and the thing is, this week, Cincinnati has a linebacker, Akeem Davis-Gaither from Appalachian State, who was drafted a few picks after Davian Taylor, who's hardly even seen the field.
He can't even get on the field. He can't even beat out Nate Gary or TJ Edwards or any of these guys getting any playing time.
Exactly. I'm just saying.
I'll say from your 3rd round pick, and then they draft a quarterback who finally started, or not started, he was finally active in his 2nd game and made a couple appearances. I'll say.
I think that was a big mistake having him active there for the game. It just gives more fuel to the fire for people to say, let's bench Carson.
It's going to happen.
I mean, it's a total overreaction Monday type comment right there.
I don't know. I'm not saying this year, but at least I'll say because after next season they can get out of Carson's contract, and I would say I think if Carson doesn't improve and show that he's deserving of this money, you're going to see Jalen Hurts probably starting middle of next season, unless he makes a miracle playoff run this year. That's my prediction. I'll say because they're not
obviously there's no confidence in any of us that they can make a miraculous playoff run with this current first 2 weeks of performing.
Okay,
I guess I'm losing.
If Carson improves, is what I'm saying. I would say if he comes out and plays like the elite quarterback we know, I feel they'll go with Carson next year. I feel Jim Schwartz is going to be the scapegoat this year. I do not see them moving on from Doug or from Carson after this season, regardless of what happens. Jim Schwartz is going to be the scapegoat, and then next year they're going to move on from Carson. Why else would you draft a quarterback in the 2nd round?
Technically, so the big thing to look for is this offseason, if they don't restructure Carson's contract to save the $18 million, you can't really get out of it this offseason just because of the amount of dead money you'd have. It would be after next season, but it's something to look forward to kind of see, what they think and what they kind of want to do, which means you can see guys like Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham or other players that you're not really thinking that could be leaving to save that, because I know they were in the cap issues, but it's something to keep your eye on what they're going to do, especially with Carson. If they struggle, if they wind up finishing 6-10, 5-11, 7-9, missing the playoffs, and basically it's almost where do you go here? I don't know. I just have a weird feeling that either Doug Peterson is going to get fed up. I don't know that we talked about the power struggle and everything with Roseman and all that stuff that's possibly going on behind the scenes. But I don't see them firing Doug. I only see Doug kind of getting sick of it and saying, you know what, screw this, I'm out of here. Otherwise, I don't really see them moving on for anything, especially with everything that happened with the COVID and all that. I don't really see them.
Well, that's not really an excuse. If anything, you would think the Eagles would be the team benefiting the most from COVID, because the fact that they had one of the least amount of turnover, they didn't have a new coaching staff or a new head coach, unlike the rest of the NFC East and a lot of other teams in this league. I understand if a bunch of other teams were struggling because of the lack of off season, I would get it, but there's only a few teams, and it's usually the lower tier teams in the league and the Eagles. So I don't buy too much of this whole COVID for their struggles, even though Doug Peterson says it's the off season or whatever, and that 2 weeks ain't enough to get prepared for the year, which, okay, I somewhat get, but it's not your main reason. It's your lack of execution. It's your lack of game plan. And as a head coach, you need to do a better job, and you need to put your players in a better position to execute that game plan.
Because the thing is,
I think
the thing is with this team coming in, with this Cincinnati Bengals team, they're 0-2 also. But the problem is they're going to be hungry. They want to win. You have a player like Joe Burrow, and you have a running game with Joe Mixon and young receivers and talented receivers. Yeah, their defense may not be as great, but that's why I think that one of the keys for the Eagles is to control the game with the run game, with Miles Sanders, with Boston Scott. If Corey Clement gets in there, but with Miles Sanders, absolutely is controlling that run game and being able to control that clock to not let Burrow on the field for long drives and just try to control it and get points, especially with the
Joe Burrow. I watched some of that Cleveland Bengals game because I had some money in that game, some skin in that game, and I know the Browns aren't a world-beating team, but I mean they're a good team. It's going to be really hard to control them and control the clock because he can sling the ball, and he has all the confidence in the world. Even though he's 0-2, he has all the confidence in the world in himself right now because no one expected them to come out and even play well. They didn't expect them to win many, but they definitely didn't even expect the good play and all. So, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not like we're playing a team that's going to go 0-16. You know, we're playing a team that's on the rise.
Yeah, and Burrow can run. He can scramble. So that's another thing you have to keep an eye on. Yeah, he's not Lamar Jackson, but you know, if you don't have eyes on him, he could get a first down. He can run a little bit.
Carson can scramble too. It's just he's not doing it.
Yeah.
This is the All About the Birds Eagles Bengals preview show live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe to all those channels for all our content. And I would say we're going to take a quick time out. We'll talk more about our locks, our picks for the week, and dive in more into this Eagles-Bengals matchup. We'll be right back.
And on second down, it's Sanders again. Sanders into the end zone for an Eagle touchdown. And Wentz will sneak, and Wentz into the end zone for the touchdown. It's a nice job by Kelsey.
All righty. And I'm going to talk a little bit of.
Well, those were the few bright spots of this past game.
Yeah, just a couple.
But yeah.
But I know this is I like this segment because Phil gets to take over with all his knowledge. That's why he's here to knowledge.
I'll say, Phil, me and you, we're 2-0? We're 2-0 in All About the Birds Fantasy League?
Oh, yeah, the All About the Birds Fantasy League, the deep 16-team fantasy league, which is like super difficult. For some reason, Johnny really has proven how difficult it is. He's 0-2 thus far, and I actually play him this week, which will be great, so he can go down to 0-3. Jeff's actually the leading scorer in the league. He scored more points than anybody else. I checked earlier, but we're both 2-0. It just shows, you know, what's out there, you know, how good we are at it. But first, the daily fantasy picks of the week. We'll get right into them. I didn't do a lot of research yet, but one guy that I trash talked a lot in the offseason, he's been on fire, and I know the Rams played really well this week, but one of my main guys, I'm going to continue. I rode with him last week. I cashed about 3-1 on my money, stacking the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to continue rolling with the Buffalo Bills in my daily leagues this week, or my daily fantasy games this week. I'm going to go with Josh Allen, and I'm going to pick any 3 of the wide receivers. I'm going to stack 2 of them with them. Diggs, who's obviously higher priced, but having a great season thus far up in Buffalo. John Brown's still playing really well, even with Diggs there. And even Cole Beasley is averaging 10.9 fantasy points a game right now in your PPR league. So, and he's got a really cheap cost. So that's my number one, game to look at for daily fantasy play this week. I know the Rams defense is rated pretty high, but a lot of that comes from beating up on the Eagles last week. So I'm gonna roll the dice there, and I'm going to stick with Buffalo this week. The other game that at least intrigues me with a small stack, I'm not sure which wide receiver to put with him yet, but Mitchell Trubisky, another guy I bash, Scotty. Scotty talks, buddy. I mean, he's played really well to an extent, and he's got a really low value. I think he's like 5,700, which is really low for quarterbacks and on DraftKings. He's going up against the Falcons defense. Who?
I got a receiver for you. One guy I really like.
From the Bears, I mean. So I'm talking about the stack with the Bears. Mitchell Trubisky.
The Anthony Miller. I know everyone talked about Allen Robinson and everything.
He hasn't done much. He hasn't done much yet, Anthony Miller, this year. But yeah, I mean, he is a possibility. They're all pretty cheap. The Bears wide receivers on DraftKings. But Mitchell Trubisky going up against the Falcons, I think it's a really strong play. Anyway.
Having some
they're my play. Yeah, I know. They're all messing with me in the background here. It's great. You guys can really see what was going on in the background right now. I'm going with Josh Allen, Mitchell Trubisky. I'm looking at those 2 games as my main daily fantasy plays. But another thing to keep an eye out for is the real experts, Josh Gamble and Jason Sullivan, All About the Birds writers. We're going to be back tomorrow night at 8:30 with another fantasy and gambling show. And those guys, their information makes my information look like nothing. So we'll be back tomorrow night at 8:30 doing a short show, 25, 30 minutes, just breaking it down in more depth. And I'll get their opinions on those names, tomorrow night. But like I said, right now, I'm looking at the Bills and I'm looking at the Bears as great plays this week in daily fantasy.
And 3 players that I have, a quarterback, running back, receiver, not a stack or anything. Just the quarterback I like is Gardner Minshew against the Dolphins.
But that's the Thursday night game. So that doesn't really work for daily fantasy slates because they're all Sunday games only. Sorry. So that ruins that pick right there.
That's all right.
Well, he's just talking fantasy in general. He's not talking about your little DraftKings betting segment that you normally do. So okay,
that's where the money's to be made.
It is, but I think he's just talking about straight up fantasy, like our All About the Birds fantasy league.
I'm trying to give him a hard time.
But the other 2 players are like Kenyon Drake against Detroit and Corey Davis against Minnesota. A.J. Brown looks like he's going to be out again. So it gives a target for Ryan Tannehill, Corey Davis, who's been playing pretty well with A.J. Brown being out. So there's 2, and those are 2 low price guys. They're not, towards the top.
Yeah, but before Jeff gives his plays, you mentioned Minnesota there. All of Philadelphia and the NFL, all the ESPN sites, they all bash Carson Wentz. Where's the Kirk Cousins bashing?
Oh my!
I mean, I don't know what he finished up with. But he was like 6 for 20 at one point last game. Where's the talk about how he's overpaid and how he's a bum of a quarterback out there?
No one knows he's overpaid. No one's saying he's an elite quarterback in this league. So of course no one's gonna be talking and ripping him. Plus he's in the city.
He got paid like he's an elite quarterback.
Well, he did because Minnesota were stupid and felt they had a franchise quarterback, which they obviously didn't. We all knew that from seeing him playing with the Redskins. So I would say, plus, he plays for a city in Minnesota, a bunch of bandwagoners who don't give a crap about their team until they start winning football games. That stadium used to be dead empty and used to be blacked out in their hometown for a long period of time because their team was that much of a garbage.
11 for 26, 42% completion percentage, 113 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 15.9 rating.
And they got blown out. Granted, I think he's the only quarterback that has a lower rating than Carson Wentz at the moment, which is sad. So I'm sorry, Phil. Carson is not playing well. He's not, and it's
obvious. He's not playing well. So
forget the tweet that I tweeted or saw from Jeff Skversky from CBS or ABC 6. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I'll say he tweeted Eagles ugly 2020. The Eagles had the most NFL turnovers, worst NFL turnover differential, tied for most NFL interceptions, tied for second with most fumbles, and tied for second most touchdowns allowed in the red zone. They allowed 7 of 9. And Carson has the most turnovers by any quarterback, most interceptions, most sack, and the second worst rating right now after 2 weeks. Not good. Not what you expect from your franchise QB. Granted,
no, I said it this week. I haven't been online much this week, but the little bit I have, I've said it. Carson is making it very hard to keep using that hashtag Wentz is elite. He really is. But, he's proven in the past that he could definitely rebound from this.
Who's it?
People that are here. Some people aren't supporting the show in the house. That's all.
Niners. But
anyway,
the other thing is,
that's the fantasy. So do you have fantasy picks there, Jeff?
I do not. I'm sorry.
No.
It was my
slacker.
What a letdown.
I'm sorry. Plus, I'm not gonna give up my secrets. I'm the one that's 2-0 right now. I'm dominating almost 5 out of my 7 fantasy leagues right now.
So Jeff is also the team last year that he went. I think he actually went undefeated and then lost in the first round.
I've done that before. It's happened.
I forget what happened.
Undefeated season.
I beat you in the first round.
I forget what happened. Was it? No, I thought I lost to Peter.
No, you lost to me because I won it all.
Okay. I just remember I was saying I think you had Patrick Mahomes or Greg Kittle or one of those players that freaking just went off out of nowhere or something. They had a big Monday Night Football game in Week 16, and I freaking just got pissed. So sometimes you can have the best roster put out there, but the players are still the ones that have to go out there and perform. So I say, look like this past week, I edged out a victory. I was supposed to blow this dude out, and it was looking good until he had Dak Prescott, and then all of a sudden Prescott went from 2 points to 40 because he had 3 rushing touchdowns and a crap load of yardage. Luckily, I had Alvin Kamara, who gave me the backdoor win with the big game on Monday night against the Raiders, even though they lost that football game. So I'm looking pretty at 2-0 in my other money league.
There's another quarterback that doesn't look good. There's an elite quarterback that does not look good right now, in Drew Brees.
Oh, he does not look.
He got in the Scotty Talk Sports Fantasy League. It's a 12-team league. He's been dropped in that league. So,
but the other thing is the other person that didn't look very good was Malcolm Jenkins. Darren Waller was eating his lunch.
Not at all.
Jenkins played okay, but I was saying Breeze, you expect it from Breeze. He's 40-something years old. You don't expect this performance from a quarterback who's in the prime of his career after his 5th year in the league.
But the other thing is what Phil mentioned earlier. He looks awfully different without his best receiver, Michael Thomas.
No doubt. Granted, I would say he looked a little bit off even before Michael Thomas, but he looked even more off this past week. But fun. I would say, do we want to move on? Do we want to go over our locks of the week, get our locks, or we want to dive in more into this game? Okay, I guess we're doing you like locks.
All right. So
let's move on to the Uleka locks.
Let's start with.
So hang on. Let me recap last week's numbers. So last week for the Uleka locks, I went 1-2. Johnny went 1-2. Phil went 1-2. So standings are looking overall the same. Me and Johnny are both 3-3 in overall locks. Phil's 2-4 at the moment, 1 game behind us. So we'll see what our picks are this week.
I tanked on picks, even on my FanDuel Sportsbet account.
So I'm going to start with I know, Phil, you sent over a sheet. I couldn't get it up, so I used whatever ESPN had in the spreads. So I'm picking Tampa Bay -6. I'm going to be picking Buffalo -2. And I'm going to be picking the Las Vegas Raiders +6.5. I like Vegas. They're playing very well.
John Gruden's a little lighter in the wallet this week after not wearing his mask.
A lot of coaches are lighter and teams are lighter in their wallets.
Yeah. All right. So this week I'm turning around. I'm gonna stick with 2 of the teams I picked last week. Bills -2.5 against the Rams. I was not high on the Bills. I've said it 100 times. They're playing really well thus far.
Well,
I got the
was high on
Cardinals
them?
minus 6.5 against. What's that?
Who was high on them earlier?
I think
in
you
the
were.
preview show?
I think you are. Yeah.
Keep
Yeah,
going,
the
go
Cardinals 6.5. Taking the Cardinals minus 6.5 against the Lions. That's another team I was not high on. And Kyler Murray, they're playing really well. DeAndre Hopkins is making him look like a great quarterback out there. And then I'm going to go with the Seahawks minus 3.5 at home over the Cowboys. Cowboys are coming off that huge comeback, and they're going to be kind of ready for that letdown and traveling across the country.
Is it
the Seahawks will win that game? On the Delaware Parks parlay card, yes, it was 3.5.
Because I'm on CBS Sports, who posted an article 7 hours ago, and they have the Seahawks as a -5.
All right, I'll still take that then.
Okay,
I just went to the Delaware Sports. Yeah, if you want to change it to -5, you can.
Okay,
I'll
well,
still take it. The Seahawks will win that game by 10 points.
Well, I'm sorry, I did not prepare, so I'm going through this lineup real quick. I am going to go Chargers -6.5 over the Panthers. I will do Tennessee Titans over the Vikings -2.5. And then I will do the 49ers -4 over the Giants.
How about the Chargers game there that you mentioned there? Tyrod Taylor. I mean, that was a pretty bad luck for him there with that injury.
That's a terrible.
You guys saw that.
Medical staff needs to be fired.
Yes, absolutely. But it gave Justin Herbert a shot much sooner than he was expected. He played really well last week, actually.
And he's starting this week. So,
yeah.
You know.
I mean, the coach did say that if Taylor's back and healthy, that he was going to start him. But all Herbert's got to do is go out and put another game or two up of looking really good, and then that obviously will become a moot point.
Oh, well, yeah. That's one thing but the thing is, you don't want to lose a job to injury, and it's not really his fault. That's the other thing. Taking a shot and getting his lung punctured. But one thing I want to do is just shout out a bunch of supporters of the show of All About the Birds. One is Heat Ratio, Tony Cotillo. Scotty Talks Philly Sports. Scotty's real great. Last Out Media, who we actually stream on their website, lastoutmedianetwork.com. And you can follow everything All About the Birds on the website, aatbirds.com. We got great writers putting out tons of content. And you follow Phil at Beard of Knowledge. Follow Jeff at Jeff Warner NFL. Follow myself at Johnny U9322. Anything else you guys want to add? Any thanks out there?
No, I will say pretty much hit the nail on the head. I do want to throw a shout out to.
We haven't actually made our game predictions or finalize that thing. Right?
I kind of figured after this real quick, but I'll say one.
Okay, gotcha.
Shout out to Birds Banter, Matt Lupi, for having me on his podcast yesterday. He's a big supporter of our show. He does a great job as well. Make sure to tune in, check out his podcast for my comments and decisions or my comments and take on the Eagles so far with their sluggish start. You can follow them on Twitter at Birds Banter, so make sure to check that out.
And the other thing, the last one I want to say is Athletes Hub as well.
They're streaming on their site today too.
Exactly. So I want to thank all of them, and we can get into the game picks. I'll have you two guys can go first. I'll go last. We'll give our predictions.
I'll say, like I said last week, I hope we see some type of urgency, some type of leadership from this squad, from someone, whether it's Carson, Fletcher Cox, or whatever. Their backs are up against the wall. They cannot fall to 0-3, especially after Cowboys' miraculous victory last week and this tough stretch of games over the next few seasons. They have to play a clean football game. They have to play 4 quarters, and they have to go out there and perform. I feel one of the keys to this game. I know I brought Miles Sanders, going to have a major workload for him with the running game and control the clock and control the pace of this game. But it definitely they need a major impact from their defensive line and getting to the quarterback, whether not just getting sacks, but rallying the quarterback, knocking him around. You can't allow him to stand back there in the pocket comfortably because I would say after you saw last week of Jared Goff, I would say Joe Burrow, he has shown that he's going to be a great quarterback in this league after, granted, it's only 2 games, but he has played well. So you can't give him time, especially with these receivers, with Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green. They can be an offense that can put up some points, but I feel with their back up against the wall, the Eagles do pull out this one. We see a big offensive game from Carson and Miles Sanders, and they win 34-17.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I really bounced around on what to predict for this game. I just can't pull I almost want to pull a Bengals prediction to win out, but I just can't do that because I can't see the Eagles going 0-4, 0-5, which if they lose this game, then you look at game weeks 4, 5, and 6, there's a chance it just spirals out of control really fast. So there's no way that the Eagles can or should lose this game. But I do think it's going to be a super close game because they haven't given any confidence in being able to do anything else other than that. Carson does get it together. He will play better this week. Hopefully, Doug Peterson's game plan is better this week. But I'm going to go 31-28 Eagles. I'm going to go keeping it close. Probably the Eagles jump out to a pretty big lead early, maybe 28-10 or something like that. Then Joe Burrow is going to do what he did last week, and he's going to rally the troops. He's going to lead a comeback, and then we're going to win it by a field goal late in the game.
So I wavered. And talking about the Bengals, I think it's going to be one of those scary games, but I feel the Eagles' ground game, I think they control the game. I think Miles Sanders is going to get 200 all-purpose yards. I think he's going to have a really huge game.
I made a bold prediction on that podcast. I said 150 and a touchdown. So
I got 202 touchdowns. I think they're going to win 30-17.
Wow.
I think they're able to get pressure on Burrow. I'm not going to say they're going to get tons of sacks. I think they're going to be able to get pressure with the Cincinnati offensive line, but I think they're going to be able to control the game with running the ball. And I think that's going to be key. And I think they're going to lean heavily on Miles Sanders, and I think they're going to come away and they're going to get the first victory of the season.
Well, we can all hope. We're all on the Eagles train.
Better. I mean.
No, go ahead.
I think Phil's frozen.
I was just saying the same thing as you were. Yeah.
Your internet's coming out, Phil, so sorry. I would say your roommates are messing with the podcast. Tell them to get off the Wi-Fi, dang it. So I would say we'll be back.
Watching it at the same time.
I'll say we'll be back Sunday as the clock hits 0. Hopefully talking about an Eagles victory with the All About the Birds post-game show. Phil and myself, and if Johnny's available, or we'll get one of our AAT Birds writers to go over the X's and O's for Sunday's game. So make sure to tune in Sunday. Hopefully talking about an Eagles victory. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, AAT Birds, and Instagram. It's been a great show, guys. Hopefully we'll be talking about an Eagles victory. And as Johnny always says, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds.